Hey yo, YouTube, we got a box of parts. So yeah, this is the first time I get to say this. This video is brought to you by PCBWay. So yeah, they reached out to me and asked if they could help with the project and do a collaborative thing or whatever. So yeah, I had a couple ideas, and well, we wound up with a box of parts. So let's see what we got. Got all kinds of goodies. So, wait, there's more stuff. Alright, I think that's everything. So, the nice folks at PCBWay sent some little swag goodie things. So, this is a pretty handy little ruler and component measurement device and whatever else. So, got a couple things like that. That's kind of neat for pretty much every footprint I'll probably ever play with, and then some. And they threw in a pen. Alright, thanks guys. And here's the important stuff. So, alright, what do we have here? This is stuff for another day. These are boards that will be in a future video at some point. These are going to be fun. We're going to rig up all kinds of ridiculous things to that. But today's video is going to be all about this happy little board here. This is a Commodore 128 MMU expansion board. So this board will plug into the existing MMU slot. You can plug 2 MMUs and a GAL into it and a couple resistors and expand the memory of that bad boy. So let's pop these bad boys open and see what the good folks at PCBWay sent over to us. Alright, that is one good looking board. I had them done in black. There's all kinds of different colors to choose from, of course. But this is a project that's been floating around on the internet in one form or another for I don't know how many years, but somebody recently in the last year or two, yeah, there he is. I don't even know how to pronounce that name, so I apologize, but he modernized his project. Instead of using discrete logic chips, there's just one GAL to put all that stuff together, made a nice little board out of it. I guess people were making these years ago with just sockets and wires and dead bug stuff or whatever. So this is an awesome little project to have on a happy little board. So very simple build. It looks like it's going to be. It's just a couple of sockets, some pin headers on the bottom, a couple resistors, and start tacking wires into things. So thanks to the good folks again at PCBWay for sending me these, and the other stuff that we will play with someday as well. So there will be more PCBWay sponsored project videos here, I guess, in the future. But for today, let's dig into this thing and see what we can do. Alright, so I took a peek through the bill of materials and schematics and all that, and I think I found everything we're going to need. So again, we have our shiny little board. Very small and simple and easy to build, we hope. We're going to need more RAM, so we will put a second SRAM module in there so we're not piggybacking all kinds of DRAM chips all over the place. Some pin headers on the bottom of the board. And of course, I never have the right sockets for anything I build, and I always forget to order them. So the MMU is a 48-pin dip, but I have a bunch of 24-pin dip sockets, so we can probably just stick a couple of these next to each other and get the pins we need that way. And then for the GAL, it's a 24-pin, but I had a bunch of these 4-pin sockets that are basically useless to me. I've never used them, I don't think, on anything ever. So we'll just put 3 of these 4 pins in a row. And the important stuff I've had squirreled away for a while in this box is an additional MMU and the GAL chip. So I don't think I'll bore you guys with soldering. Just a few sockets and a couple of resistors. So I'm going to assemble this board, and then we'll figure out how to whack this thing into the machine. Alright, it wasn't silk screened on the board, so I figured I'd make a mental note here that this is where the pin headers go. So your basically your sockets for the chips are going to be starting on the outside rows, and then you come one inside from each one, and that's where the pin header is going to be going into the board. So got to do those first, obviously, before you can pop the sockets on top. So yeah, this is how I cheat and get my pins right. I got my sacrificial breadboard here, hold the pins in place for me while I solder this stuff. So all right, let's tack this stuff together and plug something in. All right, we've got our pins installed, and we'll go throw some sockets on top now. All right, here's our little buddy all soldered together. I think it came out pretty decent, all things considered. So, a pair of 24-pin sockets on either side to make up the 48-pin sockets I didn't have, and three 8-pins for our 24-pin that we need for our little gal chip. So, yeah, pretty uneventful here. The only thing that came out a little weird was the sockets on the right-hand side of the board here. These flat pin sockets don't have the same clearance off the board like a round pin would. Really don't like round pin sockets for chips, though, because pins get mangled and all that. It's good if you have a chip that's all beat up or whatever, but the chips I'm putting in here have perfect legs on them, so I'd rather use these types of sockets. So this side's got to sit up just a hair, so they're not completely flush, but everything connects, it's solid, it's going to be fine. One thing I noticed that, I don't know if it's a problem or not yet, there's a couple things actually, but these resistors on the schematic called for 68 ohm, which I had and I installed. On the picture for this board on the GitHub page, the color code was different. I think it looked like a 44.7 or a 47 maybe. I'd have to go back and look again, but I put the 68s on there because that's what the schematic called for. So I'm willing to bet it's just minor current limiting, and 30 whatever ohm would probably work just as well as a 4 ohm or even 7500 ohm. I bet it doesn't matter that much. So I think we'll be in good shape. So next we need to program a gal to go in here, and that's quite easy to do. I guess I'll record it anyway, but it's very, very simple. All right, so programming these gal chips is super easy. I've got my, TL866 Pro connected with a gal 22V10D installed in the ZIF socket, and it's as easy as just, selecting the, programmable logic section of the flash tool, going to lattice, and there's all the different flavors. There's our V10D, and we will load the JED file provided on the GitHub page, and it's no different than flashing an EEPROM or anything, right? Same exact process. There's our data in there, our ones and zeros that are getting flung onto this thing, and when you go to program, turn off the lock bit. You don't want, actually, hang on, we forgot something. We don't want to encrypt it either. So here we will now program, lock bit's off, encrypt is off. You could turn those on. It's just, people that are programming, intellectual property into one of these chips that want to protect it. We don't care about that. I'd rather have it accessible so we can play with it. This is all open source stuff anyway. And program. That's that. Very, very simple to program these things, especially when somebody else did all the hard work of writing the JED file. I guess now we ought to RTFM here. So this is the GitHub page with hopefully everything we need to know. It's pretty detailed, I'm sure it is. So this is kind of what it'll look like when it's done. This is a 128, I think it's a DCR board, the cost reduced one. I know the layout's a bit different than the one that's in the flat, so I'm guessing that's what it is. I'm not very familiar with that board, but ought to work all the same. This first section is about the TTL project, but we are not doing the TTL version. We're doing the GAL version. So, yep, we flashed GAL already. Now installation. So, all right, looks like step one is just plug the damn thing in and see if the computer still works. So, yeah, that's easy enough to do. Let's give that a shot. Alright, we've got a happy little machine. It's rigged up to the extra craptastic USB capture device that I have, and it's good enough for now. We just know that the machine works. So, we'll shut them off. I'll even unplug the power cable. Look at me being safe or something. And here is our MMU. He is in there. This is the only chip that's ever been in this socket. So let's see if I can get it out of here without breaking anything. It'd be very sad to damage this chip. I really can't see what I'm doing behind here. There we go. Forgive the slowness there, but if I damage this chip, I'd be really sad. So we will take our new board and plug him in. And looks like it has to go this way. You know, I just realized I put these sockets on backwards. The notch is the wrong way. So here, lesson learned for somebody else building this. Make sure your notches are going the correct direction. And is it going to clear the CIA? Looks like just barely it will. Should probably put my glasses on, but we'll feel our way in. Oh, this cap's going to be in the way. Just fold them over a little bit. Maybe this isn't going to clear the CIA. Oh, that sucks. We might have to get creative and stack sockets. Yeah, all those pins are lined up, and yeah, this does not have an ice cube's chance of fitting. Well, shit. Let's go find some sockets, make a little tower. Alright, I was able to source one more 48-pin socket out of the stash, so the next thing that needs a 48-pin socket is going to be socket short when I go to build the next board, but we'll deal with that later. So, cross your fingers. Oh, sweet. It still boots. Alright, so step 2 is, according to the documents, hooking up RAMCAS 0 and 1 signals. That's for the 2 different banks of RAM, right? You know, each bank is going to have its own column address. Select line. So, it comes out of U9. The easiest way to do it is to raise one leg of R29 and 30. Alright, that seems pretty straightforward. So R29 and 30 are down here, one for each bank. So if we go on this side, alright, we have, you know, dead short. So this is the side that's facing the RAM. This side should show the resistance. It does, 68 ohm. Hang on, we can plunk that in view somewhere. Alright, dead short on that side. So this must go to U9, which is here. Yep, there we go. Alright, so we're going to lift up these resistors, both of these from the bottom side, so we can take those signals and run them to our new little guy over here. Alright, did some off-camera soldering and melting of things. Some things intentional, some things not, but anyway, here we are with our lifted resistors and wires ready to make it look something like these red and yellow ones here. Obviously a little different on this board, but hang on, let's do that. No, that. There we go. So now that you can see a little better, the yellow and green lines is what's coming off the resistor legs. So that's basically the legs of this chip going through a resistor, and these are going to have to go to J1. And then our new RAM-CAS signals that will actually drive these banks will be on the red and blue lines, and they will go to a J2. He didn't say exactly which one's which. I think it kind of doesn't matter as long as you keep them as pairs, meaning that the pin 1 is marked with a square on here, right? And then pin 2 would be the round one. So as long as we keep R29 on J1, pin 1, and then the other side of it, J2 pin 1, that would make sense to me because you're keeping the banks aligned, so to speak. At the end of the day, it probably won't really matter, just which side are you using for which bank, right? So I don't think it matters that much, but just because I'm insane or whatever, we're just going to make sure that pin 1 on J1 and pin 2 and pin 1 on J2 handle the same circuit. So all right, let's I'm going to have to cut some wires and solder some things. So we want to melt this heat shrink in place. So I don't think you need to watch me do that, but that's how we're going to connectorize this over here. All right, and here we are with the 2 original banks wired in. So just 4 wires going right over there. This is not rocket science at all, just a few extra wires so far. So if we kick back over to our docks, where was that one? There we go. At this stage, with both MMUs and the GAL installed, the computer should work normally. The only difference will be the machine monitor should now show randomly changing values from the unconnected RAM banks because they're no longer mirrored off of each other. So let's do that. Let's plug in a keyboard and the other MMU and stuff, and fire this bad boy up and see what happens. All right, we're booted up. We have a keyboard. Let's go into the monitor, and what are we looking at? And 24,000 to 2480. Yeah, that's what we should be seeing. Just random junk. And then same for the 4th bank. Bank 3, because we start at 0. Yeah, random whatever. Random whatever. So if we look at our 1st bank, it should work right. And if it wasn't, the computer would be dying in pain right now. Yeah. And then what about yeah, that's stable. All right, so far so good. Everything going according to plan. All right, so now I suppose we should add some more RAM to this thing. So we have one more of these happy little modules. So what do we do? I think what we'll do is, all right, so this is our current CAS RAM line for the 2nd bank. Remember, this whole computer's backwards and upside down. Bill Hurd must have been really drunk when he laid this thing out. But I'm just kidding, Bill. Not that you're actually going to watch this. But anyway, yeah, we'll just pop this one. Pop this one probably right above it. We can wire the data bit straight down, and basically parallel the data bus coming from here up to there. Or, we could wire it in just like this one is too, but I don't think we need to. And pull this CAS RAM out of here. And then the existing Bank 0 and 1 CAS RAMs will run the first 64K of these modules, and then our new CAS RAM lines for banks, for the 2 new banks, will wire in to the yeah, it says CAS RAM right on it. We can wire them right in there. And I think that'll be the easiest way to do it. So, yeah, let me undo this line, get this guy in and bridged, and hook up our last two lines over to J3. Alright kids, I think this thing could work. We got our data bits all whacked in together now. These yellow lines are just bridging, what is it, D0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is probably D76543, because I did everything backwards, because, well, hell, why not? Our CAS lines are hooked up, for the new banks to to J3 here, and we are laundering our original CAS lines through this gal. So yeah, this thing ought to work, right? All right. Well, let's see. Sweet. All right. I should plug in a keyboard, see if the RAM banks actually look stable and will hold data if I poke something in there or shove something in with the machine monitor. Let's plug in a keyboard. Hang on. All right, let's take a peek. No, you can't do that? I thought you could. All right, so let's do M24000, 2480. And this should be junk, but stable junk. It is stable junk. And then let's look at bank 4. All right, junk and stable junk. All right, so if we let's go FF, OA, OB, OC, OD, OE, OF. AA? Sure. Nice. It remembers our gibberish. Sweet. This thing has the more RAMs. Alright, so this hardware install is pretty much done, but we had to make a few little changes. The case didn't want to close. I knew that was going to be a problem over here. So step one, we had to pull the JCIA out. They stand up a bit taller. So by putting a normal CIA back in there, I was able to plug this mod board, if you want to call it that, directly into the socket, and I didn't need that riser socket anymore. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get heat sinks back on these. Maybe I can find some low profile ones or something, but it's going to be cutting it close. So I don't know. We'll deal with that later if we have heat issues. But originally, I don't even know if Commodore heat synced these. Maybe there was the big RF shield in here kind of thing. I forget anymore. But we'll deal with it as problems arise. And also here on the RAM banks themselves, I had to swap this stuff around. There's I think it was like the clip around the cap or the shift lock key maybe that was binding on something, so the case didn't want to close. So by swapping the orientation around like this, looks like everything is good to go. I'm able to get the case to seat flush and everything. I haven't put screws in it yet. I hardly ever put screws in this thing anymore. But I have no concerns with it closing like this. So I think that's that for hardware. This install was easy and good to go. So I guess next up we'll have to play with the software side, because there's not a whole lot. There's probably nothing out there that actually will use the second MMU and bank of RAM. So I'll look around, see if there's anything out there interesting to play with, and if not, maybe we can write some little something in machine language that will do things, or figure out how to poke things in BASIC or something like that. But I'm imagining this video is getting a little long at this point, so I think actually playing with this thing will be a separate video. So with that, I'll wrap it up, and thanks for watching. Do this mod, it's super easy, and let's see if we can get a cult following for the Commodore 256. See ya.